European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen ended her one-day trip to Kyiv on Wednesday, her 11th visit to Ukraine since the war broke out. She praised Ukraine's performance on the battlefield, saying that it has built a strong military momentum, and further adding that the tide is turning. Covering her visit for us was our correspondent Jorge Liboreiro, who sent us this report.
The visit of Ursula von der Leyen to Kyiv concluded with a headline-making announcement. A deal between the European Union and Ukraine to jointly produce drones is the first of its kind and will allow Europeans to tap directly into Ukraine's cutting-edge expertise. Notably, the agreement will enable Ukraine to store some of these drones inside EU territory to protect them against Russian strikes. President Zelensky hailed the deal as a truly historic step and said that relations between the two sides are now deeper, stronger and more personal than ever before. But besides drones, there was a lot of talk, of course, about accession. President Zelensky and President von der Leyen both held the momentum in the process and encouraged member states to open new clusters of negotiations with Ukraine, a decision that requires unanimity, and we all know how difficult that can be. In fact, von der Leyen during the press conference gave us a very strong hint of what cluster might be next. Take a listen.
There are different clusters for different topics. For example, the cluster number 2 is for the internal market. And our candidate countries have very different starting positions. If you take Ukraine, Ukraine has already done a lot, what is potentially in the cluster 2. So it has done already homework in the cluster 2 because we have the DCFTA, the Deep and Comprehensive Free Trade Agreement. But even more, we also have, specifically only for Ukraine, the Ukraine facility that comes investment with reform. And the reforms are often concerning the single market. So, for example, that is a cluster where I would say it's ready to be opened because some of the work is already done by Ukraine. And I think this illustrates that we can truly say as soon as possible.